good, Griff413 here back in the day, and today, guys, we are going to be going over the 24 brand new cars that are going to be coming to Forza Horizon 5. That's not that many. That really is not that many. In fact, I am a little bit disappointed in that. Honestly, I was hoping for at least like 50, but 24 is still not too bad. But the fact that we also lost over 170 cars that are currently in Horizon 3, that does hurt just a little bit. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First up we have is the 2019 Aston Martin Valhalla concept. This is the everyday version of the Aston Martin Valkyrie, and with this being the concept, it more than likely will get the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 paired with 2 electric motors for a grand total of a whopping 1,000 horsepower, which seems like quite a lot. But honestly, now for hypercars, it almost seems like 1,000 horsepower is the starting point. I mean, you got the Veyron, the Chiron, there's all kinds of things, the Jesko. A lot of cars have 1,000 horsepower nowadays. The production version does, however, get a 4-liter Mercedes M178 LS2 twin-turbo V8, also with the 2 electric motors putting out 1,000 horsepower, and it's the only road-going car with a oil quick change system, which means that this oil can be changed in as little as 90 seconds. That is insane. Do you imagine getting an oil change in 90 seconds? That's crazy. I mean, it's probably cost a lot because there's so many parts that'll just have to be replaced. It's like, drop the oil pan, put a new one in, and you're done. Like that, it's going to cost a lot. Coming up next, we have the 2019 Deberti design Toyota Tacoma TRD, the performance truck. This was actually built in partnership with Toyota TRD and was consulted on by Deberti in order to build this thing, and he built it in just 90 days. Now, it looks like a Tacoma, it doesn't necessarily drive like a Tacoma, but the thing is, not a lot of parts are actually original Tacoma parts. You would even think like, oh, maybe the headlights, the hood, that sort of stuff. No. All of that is custom. The only things that are actually really kept from the original Tacoma are the doors and the roof. That is it. Everything else is custom. Now, the reason why he called this the performance truck is because he wanted to make it essentially a vehicle that could be used in any terrain, in any situation. It's kind of based on some NASCAR stuff. It has a NASCAR TRD motor. It's based on Indy, GT3. Also, he does a lot of off-roading stuff, so like, this thing is insane. You're going to be able to do just about anything you really want to do. After that, we have the 1982 DeLorean DMC12. We last saw this in Forza Motorsport 3. Not Horizon 3, Motorsport 3. So it has been a long time since we have actually seen this car. Now, it was designed and built by the controversial John DeLorean, and it wasn't really fast or nimble or anything like that. In fact, actually, it was only really made popular due to Back to the Future. It was very cool and futuristic looking, but it only had a top speed of 85 miles per hour, which was actually 3 miles per hour shorter than what was needed to activate the flux capacitor. So, not very fast, and in fact, reaching that 88 miles per hour was pretty much impossible for this car. I think actually in Back to the Future they had to tow it at 88 miles an hour in order to get it up to that speed. After that, what we have is the 2021 Ford Bronco 2-door, the brand new Ford Bronco, and honestly, it is in such high demand. It is crazy. My dad is wanting to try and get one of these, and he was looking them up, and they were going for over $40,000 over MSRP. That is absolutely insane for something that is not really all that quick. The most powerful version comes with a 2.7-liter twin-turbo V6 EcoBoost with 330 horsepower. That's really not all that much. And they're even making a Bronco Raptor version of this thing. It's going to be absolutely insane. Can't wait to see what that Bronco Raptor is going to be capable of. And hopefully we get it here in Horizon 5 when it comes out next year. So next up we have yet another Bronco, and this is the 2020 Ford number 2069 Bronco R. Now this thing was built for the Baja 1000, and that's where it was revealed. It was revealed at the Baja 1000 and was basically used to test how strong the components of the new Ford Bronco were going to be. Now none of the parts that Ford actually had put on the car for Ford and were intended for the actual Bronco broke during the race. This is like the transmission and the engine. However, though, it did have some aftermarket suspension parts which did actually end up breaking, which does kind of suck. So, I mean, you could throw a whole lot of shit at this thing and it's going to work, but If you put some aftermarket parts, they're basically saying, nah, it ain't gonna work. But I will say, this is not sponsored, but BDS, if they do make a lift kit for it, will actually warranty their lift kit, so you can break it all you want and you'll get brand new parts sent right out to you to replace it. Now, the other thing is, this was seen towing competitors out of the mud, which is kind of surprising considering the fact that it is a Ford. After that, what we have is the 2020 Ford Super Duty F450 Platinum. This thing is absolutely insane. With a 6.7 liter Power Stroke, good for 450 horsepower and 1,000 pound-feet of torque. This vehicle will get the job done for any rancher who wants to stay in luxury. With this being the Platinum, it's going to have all the bells and whistles that the hardworking ranchman would ever want. You know, it's got leather interior, forged aluminum rims, a locking rear diff, and can tow 32,500 pounds. That is absolutely insane. Imagine having to tow that much. And then, of course, you're going to have things like a sunroof, heated seats, blind spot monitoring. This is from a work truck. The people who buy this really aren't actually going to be using it for work. More or less, they're going to be showing off the fact that they have an $80,000 pickup. That's right, $80,000. But honestly, it is still absolutely insane. Then we have the 2017 Ford Brocky Ultra 4 Bronco, which I'm honestly surprised this didn't end up in like a different category, because like this is made by Von Gitten Jr. Granted, we don't have necessarily a Von Gitten Jr. like brand, but he's starting to have quite a few cars end up in Forza. This thing has a Z427 V8 putting out 535 horsepower, as well as it has some nice good old King shock absorbers, which are good for 25 inches of travel. This thing is just built to be an amazing side-by-side. Like, I know it's not even really a side-by-side because it is a Bronco, but I mean, it's not necessarily like, how would I say this? Like a normal Bronco. Like, this is a two-door Bronco. It's been stripped out. It's basically a UTV with 535 horsepower. It's going to be absolutely insane. Moving on, we have the 1967 Ford Racing Escort Mark I. Now, this thing actually was built to race in the 1970 London to Mexico World Rally Cup and was fitted with a 1,850cc Kent engine. This thing was so successful, it actually ended up finishing first, third, fifth, and sixth in the race, which that is pretty damn good, in my opinion. That is pretty damn good. Not really too much else is known about this car. I mean, there was a couple of them made, obviously, since it was able to finish in 4 different polls. But this is the first time we've had it in Forza, so really not too much information is available as of yet. In fact, I couldn't even find any power numbers. I was just able to find 1,850cc Kent engine. I have no idea how much power it actually puts out. Then we move on to the 1970 GMC Jimmy. Yes, we are finally getting a Jimmy, or, you know, a Blazer. Although, granted, we have had the Blazer in the past. We've had the Hoonigan Blazer. But now we're actually getting a GMC Jimmy that is just bone stock, and we can do whatever we want to it. I'm actually really, really excited for that. It's kind of funny, though, because, you know, they're putting in the Jimmy. I don't know where I was going with that. Never mind, I was thinking of OJ for some reason. It's like, he didn't drive that, he drove a Bronco, of course not. But this thing is the luxurious version of the Chevy Blazer. You know, it actually had like strengthened internals and all this sort of stuff in comparison to the Chevy, but honestly, it's still a pretty nice car. It's still a Chevy, essentially. It's still a Chevy. It had a 350 cubic inch 5.7 liter V8, which was good for a whopping 165 horsepower. Not exactly the quickest thing, but in 1970, that still wasn't too bad. That still wasn't too bad, especially in a time when the SUV was still a relatively new concept. It was still a relatively new concept. Then we move on. I don't actually know the year on this, but it's the Hoonigan Ford Escort RS Cosworth Cossie V2. Now, the thing is, Cossie V1 burned up, so of course, Ken Block needed himself a Cossie V2. The Aero was fitted and taken from the modern WRC Fiestas and is 4.3 inches wider than Cossie V1. The Ford YB engine that was put into this thing produces 371 horsepower and features all of the modern rally goodies. This thing is going to be an absolute beast of a car, and in fact, even to pay heritage to Cossie V1, which burned up, one of the production people was actually able to take some of the burnt metal bits from the original car and turn it into a coating that was put on to the new chassis. That's pretty cool. Cossie V1 still lives on in Cossie V2. After that, we have the 1991 Jaguar XJR15, which was designed by the same man who designed the McLaren F1. Now, this was the first road car to be made entirely out of carbon fiber. I'm honestly surprised about that. 1991, and this was the first car to be made entirely out of carbon fiber. Honestly, I thought carbon fiber was relatively new in like the 2000s. So 1991 is mind-blowing to me. That is absolutely crazy. It had a 6-liter V12 which produced only 450 horsepower, which by today's standards would be absolutely terrible for a V12, and only had a top speed of 191 miles per hour. Again, not really all that great, and each one cost $1 million. Which would be $2 million in today's money. That is a lot of damn money, if I do say so myself. Whew! Imagine what you could do with $2 million today. There are so many cars in that $2 million price range that get well over 200 miles per hour. I mean, hell, I think for like $400,000 you could easily get over 200 miles an hour. I think for like $150,000 you can get over 200 miles an hour and more horsepower than that. That's crazy. That is crazy. After that, we have the 2020 Land Rover Defender 110X, which is equipped with a 3-liter inline turbo, putting out 395 horsepower. Honestly, again, I struggled to find a lot of information about this vehicle. I even went to Land Rover's website, and they didn't even list any of the specs for it. All I could find was like stuff on the Defender 90s and all that sort of stuff. But this is sure to be a great off-roader like its predecessors before it. Hopefully it's going to do a good job. But with it being a modern day Land Rover, it's probably going to break down. It's probably going to break down. Parts are going to break. It'll do the job. It's just not going to do the job all the time. Out of that, we have the 1997 Lexus S3 Sc300, which is finally coming back to Forza since it was last seen in Horizon 3. Now, this car has become quite popular in recent years as it does have a 2JZ, which of course is shared with the Supra, and produces 225 horsepower with a 0 to 60 of 6.8 seconds. Now, a manual was available, but with this being a luxury car from Lexus, the automatic was what was the majority sold. But like I was saying, how it's more popular today is a lot of people are seeing this as a cheaper way to get into that 2JZ life, because Supras are so expensive. They are so expensive. Oh my god. Then we move on to 2020 Lotus Evija. This is Lotus's first all-electric vehicle, and I'm honestly surprised that we're getting this and not the Evora. I really am surprised that we aren't getting the Evora. Now, Evija apparently means Eve, and that's because this is the first all-new Lotus under the wider Geely family, which that is a Chinese company. And with a single gear, this car puts out 1,970 horsepower. 2,000 horsepower, people. This thing is going to be absolutely redonkulous. It's going to be absolutely redonkulous. And basically, Lotus only came out and said, it'll go at least 200. So, will it go over 300? Who knows? We'll have to see in Forza for ourselves. Then we have the 2020 McLaren GT, which only has a 4-liter V8, but produces a whopping 612 horsepower. McLaren claims that this is the lightest and quickest accelerating Grand Tourer on the market. Yeah, that's some big, bold words. I don't know if it's actually true or not, but that's what McLaren says. Yet, the thing is, with this car, it's still comfortable and has all the modern amenities that anyone driving a Grand Tourer would expect from their vehicle. So that is some good news right there. If you're thinking about buying one, although it's over $200,000, so not too many people are going to be able to get their hands on one. Then we move on to the cover car. The 2021 Mercedes-AMG Project One, although I think now it's just called the One, starting at a cool $2.7 million. Like, this thing is a little bit more expensive than that Jaguar was, alright? A little bit more expensive than the Jaguar, but only has a 1.6 liter V6. That's all it's got. But then it has 4 electric motors, and that amounts to a whopping 1,000 horsepower in a 0 to 124 mile per hour in under 6 seconds, and a top speed of 217 miles per hour. Think about that. For just like a few quid more, a few dollars more than, you know, than one of those Jaguars, you're going to get something that is completely out of its league. That is absolutely insane. If you were taking that $1 million, thrown in the stock market in the 90s, you could have bought that car and then some. So I don't know what those people were thinking when they bought those Jags. Then we have the 2004 Nissan Rally Raid Navara. For those of us in the United States, this is a Frontier. Now the thing about this Navara, it was actually driven by Colin McRae. And it actually went on to win a couple of stages of the 2004 Dakar, and even some more stages in the 2005 Dakar. However, though, he did unfortunately crash in the 2005 Dakar and wasn't able to finish, and really only lived a couple more years as he passed away in 2007. Again, not much is known about this because it's kind of an obscure car from history. It really didn't win, wasn't like super successful or anything like that. But hey, we're getting another truck. I am so cool about that. That's awesome. That is honestly amazing. I'm actually really happy about that. But because of this, Nissan actually produced a production version of the Rally Raid Navara, so people could actually go out and buy this. So that was kind of cool of them. I actually really appreciate that. It almost made me think, like, man, I wonder how much one of those costs nowadays to get a 2004, essentially a Rally Raid Frontier, and it's a modern truck that you can drive on the road. I wonder how much one of those runs nowadays. But then we have the 2020 Porsche Taycan S. The Porsche Taycan S is 751 horsepower, 774 pound-feet of torque, and that's enough to rock anyone's world with this all-electric car. And of course, with Porsche's bringing out the big guns, and they're going to whack old Tesla right in the face. Oh my god. The Teslas are quick, and they've got some quick cars, but Porsche's got that history, and I feel like a lot of people are going to go to the Porsche Taycan, and they're going to be like, I think I'm going to get this over the Tesla. Although, granted, the thing is, it doesn't nearly get as much range as a Tesla does, so that does kind of hold it back just a little bit, in my opinion. Now, the Taycan is kind of interesting. The name is. It's actually Turkish for lively young horse. You know, most people, they think of horses and cars, they think of Ferrari, but little known, Porsche, you know, they're horses too. They are horses too. Speaking of Porsche, we got the 2018 Macan Rally Raid, which was built as an homage to the 959 Dakar. That's pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome right there. The goal of this vehicle is ultimately to tackle the Dakar, but it is being built by one dude. One really, really, really rich dude who decided that this was going to be his fun hobby in his spare time. Most Macans will never end up seeing so much as a pebble, but they are a performance SUV, so honestly, I love what he's doing with this thing. That is absolutely crazy. Hopefully, he does get to the Dakar. Hopefully, he does finish it. And then we have our last new Porsche, which is the 1990 Porsche number 65 Rothsport Racing 911 Desert Flyer. This was built for the Nora Mexican 1000 and actually won in 2018. Currently, it's on display over at the Peterson Automotive Museum, but this car was essentially converted all-wheel drive, it added some roll cages, strengthened the chassis, added some skid plates, and was up to 325 horsepower. I didn't realize, because like when you think about this, it's a 1990s 911. Maybe it raced back in the 1990s. Again, this is another one of those cars that's just being built by some dude to go ahead and race. So, honestly, build a car, it might end up in Forza nowadays. just keep that in mind. Then we have the 2021 Sierra Cars RX3. New brand, new car. Honestly, this thing's crazy. It is the most race-focused UTV in the world. With a Hayabusa engine putting out 200 horsepower, yet only weighs 925 pounds, it has a top speed of 121 and a 0 to 60 of 2.8 seconds. Holy crap, who is making this thing and what for? That's insane. That is insane, like, I mean, that puts, like, freaking Polaris Razors and Can-Am Mavericks to shame. It really, really does. And that's kind of what this car is built for. It's built to be like a racing version of those. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Then we have 2 brand new Toyotas, although granted one of them is returning, but starting off we got the 2020 Toyota GR Supra. Is that a Supra? Oh no, it's a BMW. We get the jokes, we get the jokes. Of course, the GR Supra shares the same platform as the new Z4, puts out 382 horsepower from a 3-liter 6-cylinder, and starts at $54K for the V6 Premium Edition? I don't necessarily know. And it can go for much more. It can go for much more. In fact, I actually stopped and looked at one today at a Honda dealership. Someone had traded it in for an HRV. Oh my god. Like, I cringed when I heard that. The dealer was telling me that. And they wanted 60 grand for it. So that's more than, you know, the starting MSRP price for a used Supra. So I think he probably bought it and was able to like trade it in and get some extra money and decided he wanted an HRV. Ugh. But this is one of the most requested cars to date in Forza. Everyone and their mom has been wanting it. Everyone and their mom's been requesting it. And it's finally here. Then we have the 1979 Toyota FJ40. Again, this car was last seen in Horizon 3. Like that, oh god, what car was it? The Sc300, the Lexus Sc300. Since Toyota wasn't available to start in Horizon 4, you know, it's just one of those. Toyota's come back into the game. Slightly larger than a Jeep CJ, I didn't know that. They weren't exactly fast, but they were extremely dependable and able to conquer just about anything. So, FJ40's back. They're honestly beloved by so many people. Can't wait to see this. And our final car is the 2017 Vuhl 05RR. With a Ford 2.3-liter EcoBoost, it puts out 400 horsepower, yet weighs only 1,400 pounds. That's insane, but that makes it a beast with a 0 to 60 time in just 2.7 seconds. This car is going to be a lot of fun. And honestly, I thought, you know what, I wonder how much this thing costs. So I looked it up, and it's $150,000. For a little track car. I don't know if it is worth it. I really don't know if it's worth it. That seems like an awfully high price for a 2.3-liter EcoBoost. Oh god, like, I mean, with like minimal anything. Like, it's got a cool design, but $150,000? Jesus Christ. I think for that money, like, I mean, you can go buy a gently used Audi R8 for that kind of money, and you're going to have at least air conditioning and a roof. I just don't see too many people being like, I want a Vuhl 05RR. Like, it's definitely cool, but like, very specific audience, and someone's going to be like, well, I could buy a Vuhl, or I could go get a KTM crossbow, which is going to be just as much fun. Like, really, I don't see too many of these selling. But anyway, though, that is every car that is in Forza Horizon 5 that is brand new from Horizon 4. Leave a comment down below. Let me know which car are you most excited about. Honestly, there are so many on this list. I think the one I'm most excited about is the Jimmy. I can't wait to see what that thing is actually capable of and what kind of performance parts we're actually going to be able to get. Other than that, the Bronco 2-door is really kind of cool too. I really can't wait for that. So anyway, though, that's where we're going to wrap things up for today. If you guys want to, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at twitter.com/Griffin13 and Instagram.com/Griffin13. And if you like this video, go make sure to hit that like button down below for us, because you already know your support is so greatly appreciated. And make sure to subscribe to my videos coming out all the time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. Bye!